Item number 5, Mr. Hampton, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that ordinance 2009-002, Chapter 94, City Code of Ordinances, Park Rules, be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Stark.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, in May of 2008, the Park and Recreation Commission was tasked to review Chapter 94, which of course is the rules for parks. And at that time, since it's been several years, and to bring everything up to speed with the definitions in Vista 2020, we brought this forward. It has been 30 days since this last was brought before the council. We have received no comments, and in the second reading, we're asking for your approval.
Okay. Thoughts, comments? Mr. Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The part that really stands out is 94.05. And this morning's Sierra Vista Herald had an excellent editorial about this amendment of this code, and I will read part of it. The code revision is clear and fair, giving people ample notice on what is expected of them if they wish to schedule an event in the park. Giving the city notice helps the staff plan and helps avoid conflicts when events compete for the same date. Most of all, the changes to the code will allow for people to, in an organized fashion, exercise their First Amendment rights on religious or political issues at city parks and facilities. And I think what was done by the city staff and the Parks and Recs group, they did an excellent job of getting this thing up to speed, up to code, if you will, and modernized, and I think they did a great job. It's going to balance very well the First Amendment rights of the people and the duty of the city to maintain law and order. So thank you for your work.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Reardon, I'll pass that on to the Park and Recreation Commission.
Thanks also to the city attorney who played a big role in that.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 6, Mr. Hampton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2009-052, approval of the fiscal year 09-10 through fiscal year 11-12, our Future Vistas strategic plan, be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As you know, 2 years ago, the City Council adopted its first strategic plan or strategic leadership plan that had a number of objectives that were designed for completion by the end of this fiscal year, June 30th of this year. I'm happy to report that we are on schedule with the bulk of them. There will only be a small number, 7% of the objectives, which are on hold, another 8% which will be completed a little behind schedule sometime next fiscal year. The rest will be completed by June 30th on schedule. Several weeks ago, we got together as a management team and City Council, and you established the next iteration of objectives for the community and for the city. There are a total of 44 objectives in this document, many of them with some sub-objectives, and these are our marching orders for the next 2 years. So your approval tonight will adopt the strategic plan formally, and then the city will put in place all of the things necessary to ensure that these objectives are completed based on your direction. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Questions?
I have no questions. I just have a
Thoughts?
comment. In addition to the other excellent goals that we had already on the books, and now we have new objectives for, the objective of environmental sustainability, encouraging the use of low-cost technologies that protect the environment and contribute to energy efficiency, kind of opens the door for us to be able to take advantage of opportunities to do this in our city and also in the municipality itself. So I'm looking forward to everyone being aware of this and jumping on board with the opportunities that are out there. Thank you.
Anybody else? For those of you in the audience and at home that are students of a form of governance called policy governance, the strategic plan, the way it's developed, the way it's approved, and the way it's exercised is a nice example of policy governance in action. and it's also a nice example of how efficiently and effectively a city, in fact, can be operated. So thank you all. All in favor of this item? Unanimous, and thank you. Mrs. Doctor, item 7.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2009-053, abandonment of Queens Way, request to proceed, be approved.
Second.
Mr. Irwin.
Mr. and members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, this is the next step in the process for a request to abandon a portion of Queens Way. Sorry about my voice, but the area that we're talking about, this is State Route 92, State Route 90, Union Hills Plaza, the Target and Fry Center over here. And the portion of the roadway that we'll be talking about is located through here. Which maps here. As the council knows, over the past number of years, there have been previous abandonments in this area. Many, many years ago, when Kings Manor subdivision was approved, it showed Queens Way running north here to State Route 90. As a result of proposed development here, and in fact, the owner may be in tomorrow to pick up the permit for Savannah Springs Apartments. This abandonment took place some years back. The residents over here had requested that this portion be abandoned so that traffic would not come into the residential subdivision here. And the portion that we're talking about this evening includes these two parcels here. This really came about as a result of discussions between the Arizona Department of Transportation and the property owners of Savannah Springs and a proposed future development here. And as you saw in this previous drawing, EDOT's concern was that the access point here went out really in an area that does not match up with an access point to the north. As a result, they were talking about running the median the entire length down here to block any left or left turn movements in or left turn movements out. And as a result of the property owners' discussion, they came up with this alternate idea, which would abandon these portions here, except of course for the sidewalk that exists here into Union Hills Plaza, and create an easement that would run up here, the blue area here, that would run across and access State Route 92 here at a future date. They basically then came to the city at that point, and of course knowing of the previous abandonments, having worked this out, requested that the remaining portions be abandoned, and then they will develop this portion here to provide access in and out of State Route 90. If you approve the resolution this evening, it will set in process the next part of the process. Mr. Perger will be contacting all the utility companies that may have facilities in that area. Again, formally contacting all the adjacent property owners and the city departments for any comments that they may have on this. It would then come to the Planning and Zoning Commission at a public hearing, and at a subsequent date come back to the city council for a public hearing, at which point I hope I have the voice again. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Jim. Is it anticipated that the intersection that will be created with an entrance that also goes into the Friday supermarket area, will there be another stoplight there, or are we going to try to control traffic with just the stoplight in front of Indian Hills Plaza?
Mr. and Councilmember Hampton, in the discussions with ADOT, they do not envision a light at this time. They basically feel the one at the main target entrance provides safe access through this area and safe staging of the traffic.
Mr. Mueller?
My question is the width of access wide enough? Because if we have a two-lane road, and I'm assuming it's going to be a two-lane road, 14 feet per lane, that's 28. You got another 3 feet for curb and gutter on both sides, so we're already at 31, and we got no sidewalks. Was that brought up or discussed?
Mr. and Mayor Pro Tem Mueller, I'll ask Mr. Bergler, who's worked on this, to come up and talk about that part. I know it was discussed with ADOT as part of the discussion.